Tom Holsinger-Friesen. I chair the CPLA committee for the Christian Perspectives on the Liberal Arts. And we are especially blessed to have a member of CPLA speaking with us today, and I'll introduce him in just a minute. But first off, I want to offer a few words of thanks. First off to the SAU Student Alumni Council, which with their Dollars and Donuts program, we are co-sponsoring this event. And we thank you for them and their work on behalf of Spring Arbor and the students, and also for the folks at CP Federal Credit Union who provided the donuts and coffee. So that was a nice treat. Thanks to them. And I will also say, look for our next month's event in November, about this time, where we'll be having a panel discussion on cross-cultural studies. So we have these monthly events, Community of Learners, and we're delighted that you've joined us. Our hope is to bring academic, specifically liberal arts, topics of conversation in the context of Christian faith and living. So whether you are here for extra credit or the joy of learning, we're glad you're here. So a few things about our speaker. So Dr. Alan Knight, a lot of you probably know him. He's been here at Spring Arbor since 2008. He's Associate Professor of Business in Marketing and Entrepreneurship in the Gainey School of Business. Before that, he was Director of the Hosmer Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Gainey School of Business. This is a man who has lots of experience in the real world outside of Spring Arbor bubbles, which we love it. But Dr. Knight has been business executive at organizations like InterVarsity Press. He is an entrepreneurship, has started all kinds of businesses. You should talk to him sometime. He's got some great stories. This is a man who I would describe as magnanimous. So here's your Latin quiz. Anyone know, is Dr. Baker here? Magnanimous, what does that mean? Oh, he's like, all right. Well, literally, it means, great soul or great spirit. And I'm going to have to talk to him later to kind of try to humble him after I give this. But no, I really, truly believe, as I've gotten to know Dr. Knight over the last number of years, he truly is magnanimous, truly great-hearted, great-souled man. And what I mean is this. So he is wise. He knows how to teach. He brings insights. And yet he is also kind. The world needs a lot more kindness, doesn't it? I've learned this kind of personally over the years as he and I have lunch occasionally and chat. We are kindred spirits in certain ways. I hope when I'm older I have the nice hair that you do. I love that hair. I like embarrassing too. But what I encourage you to do at Spring Arbor is push yourself a little bit. Seek out professors, mentors, students, others that maybe think a little differently than you do, because if they are magnanimous, they will help you become a better person. Now, Dr. Knight and I, we agree on the fundamentals, but he has challenged me in certain ways on areas where we don't see eye to eye. And it blesses my heart because we have fantastic times of fellowship. He makes me a better person. So I truly say thank you. And I am looking forward to what he's going to say today. And, after all this, here's his title, Curiosity, Entrepreneurship, Flourishing in Jesus, What is Missing? So will you please join me in welcoming Dr. Alan Knight? Latin.
What else can I say? Latin. So, thank you a lot, Dr. Tom. I think most of the students don't think call you Dr. Tom and CPLA, and I see some faculty members in the back. Are you sitting in the back so you can leave as I embarrass you or say something that is counter to what you're thinking? Okay. The staff and the students are here today. This is a special opportunity. My prayer and desire for us today is that we're going to have a joint time of reflection, that we may also be challenged together during this time of reflection to consider more deeply about who we are in God's creation. To what is He calling us, and how do we respond to His grace? My hope is that with a bit of reflection on this journey today, you might be served by sensing some helpful counsel and insight from one lifelong learner to another. Yes, I come before you today, as many of you know, as a small-town farm boy, a failed college student, a second-rate trumpet player, piano player, and a terrible dancer. Just ask my wife. Yet God, in His mercy, has allowed me the privilege to serve in a number of senior leadership positions over 30-plus years in entrepreneurial ventures before entering into my second career here as a college professor. So let me ask you, can you think back to your first memories of toys and backyards, of swing sets, of rain, of flowers, of toy, whatever those things are, have arms and legs on them? What propelled you to get dirty, to run, to explore, to dream? Was it an innate hunger to know, from bugs to flowers? And as you aged, did that grow into a hunger to thrive, to flourish, to succeed, to prosper? Do you recall when you noticed that your play became more serious? That your dreams turned into a desire for meaning and purpose? And then did you start thinking about, I want to be significant. I want to be recognized. So, as you consider your transition from childhood to adulthood, my recollection is that this transition for me came slowly and steadily. And as I progressed from school to college to work, how did I attempt to pull all this stuff together that grew out of that innate curiosity that I experienced as a child? What's that curiosity done for you? For some of us, I think our desire to know has waned. For others, it's become an unrelated puzzle of all these pieces. How do we put them together? And for others, we see a more complex whole, a whole system. Some of you heard me talk about that. Either way, I have observed from my perspective as a leader in the business world that it may take a particular path, especially if people are Christ followers, as women and men of faith. So, as Dr. Tom read out, I think there's 4 key elements. And often that first element is curiosity, that we just kind of started to discuss here. Curiosity is a desire to know, to think more thoughts about, I wonder why a tree turns green. I think Dr. Tom could probably answer that question for us. The other Dr. Tom, there's 2 of you in here, right? The other Dr. Tom. You might be able to relate philosophically and theologically. And when did you first learn that the saying, knowledge is power? You know what? I started to think pretty early on, if I have something that few others have in the way of knowledge, can I not use it for gain? Knowledge is power. How about for personal pride? How about for power? How about for possessions? Well, I wasn't very old when I decided to be an entrepreneur. My first entrepreneurial venture was selling matchbook covers. Nobody even knows what a matchbook is anymore, but I got a kit from the Superior Match Company in Chicago, Illinois, down in Dana, Indiana, and I took my bike around and sell matchbook covers. Entrepreneurship. Some of you are maybe thinking about that. It's to gain wealth, is it? To be independent? To gain power, prestige, the flash of some item, some bauble? that no one else has gained. And then we can say, we did it on our own. So entrepreneurship intrigued me from early on. And then I thought about, even as a believer, or about the age of 12 when I accepted Christ, I thought a lot about flourishing. And I didn't really think too much about what Aristotle had to say about flourishing until a little bit later on in life. I don't know when that was. I know it was before I was 68, but it was sometime after I was 12. And I was impressed because Aristotle said that, maybe through this curiosity and through some of my entrepreneurial things, as I understood, I could find happiness. I could flourish. The function of one's life ultimately is to find happiness, which is kind of purpose, and it could be achieved by reason. Wait a minute, didn't that connect me back to curiosity? Curiosity helped me understand more about reasoning through certain things. I started to see some things come together. And so, I thought, now after I have happiness, right? Maybe you saw some of these same things. Now I can give God all the credit due. Thanks, God. Of course, as a believer, right? Especially on Sunday, love the worship songs. I'm feeling good. Thanks, Aristotle. Something seems to be missing. Just what is that? Well, wait a minute. Is it good to be curious? Isn't it good to have entrepreneurial thoughts, to be creative and innovative? Isn't it good to want to flourish? Isn't it good to know Jesus? Well, this summer, without anything else left to do, without a stack of books to read, partly led to that, fed to that curiosity. I thought, why don't I read Pascal? And I said, why don't I read what Kreeft has to say about Pascal? And so I picked up a book of Kreeft's annotations on Pascal's Pensées, which means sort of being pensive, sort of thinking, sort of reflecting. And as I was reading through it, I got hit in the head with a sledgehammer. Now, some of you don't think that's happened a long time ago. What is he talking about? Pascal said, curiosity is vanity. When I read those three words, and I think it's Pensées number 72, I was shocked. Shocked about as much as I've ever been shocked in my life. I think, over three little words, curiosity is vanity. I said, I got to stop what I'm doing, and I got to think about this for about 3 weeks. Then I found an article with a guy with the name of Griffiths. I'll try not to put too many academic articles and names in here, but he talked about curiosity. He's a Catholic theologian and philosopher. This idea of, is information owned, and if it is, by whom? Remember when we talked about curiosity? It's something I want to own. I want to have the power out of the knowledge that I get. What do you mean knowledge and curiosity can be vain? And then, of course, what happened next, I had an occasion to talk to Dr. Bilbrough. Anybody here ever talk to Dr. Bilbrough? Yeah, right. The fortunate thing for me is I've never had to have him assign me anything to write. That's a blessing. So I'm sitting down in his office, and I throw this little tidbit out. Of course, you know what Dr. Bilbrough said. Well, of course. Curiosity is vanity. And then what does he do next? He hands me a book on the shelf. By this same Griffiths. And that book, called Intellectual Appetite, explores the vital and virtuous desire to know, the vital and virtual desire to know, not the self-aggrandizement desire to know, but the desire to know for virtue, knowing with right purpose. Man, I thought, was I using curiosity rightly, or as a self-serving way to achieve dominance and significance? I'm not a kid anymore. I know some of you think I am. You've seen it in the classroom. My wife often chides me for my childishness. But no, I've been around quite a while. Dominance and significance. Then I came to the realization that what I was really doing was beginning to wrestle with the order of these four elements. Curiosity, entrepreneurship, flourishing, Jesus. In fact, I've been using these four elements in that particular order for most of my life. And as a person who champions free enterprise, rule of law, personal ownership of means and goods, I became more aware of a subtlety concerning ownership. What I've come to realize is that the concept of ownership within the Christian worldview is about God, our Creator, allowing us as His stewards to act as His agents rather than as private owners. For with ownership, we crave dominance, while as stewards and agents, we represent the true owner. Griffiths, 2006, Dr. Bill Weiss.
What page?
I'm sorry, it's not MLA, it's APM. Subtle? Is that really a subtle concept? No, maybe not so much. But goodness, even the last couple, 3 weeks, it's been life-changing and powerful. Yeah, it's a gradual process for many really to come to this recognition of agency and stewardship. And in my case, it's going to continue to challenge my thoughts on application to all that I possess. Steward. Hence, I realized that what was to be a simple application of the implication of a life in commerce from curiosity, entrepreneurship, flourishing in Christ, had become a challenge to right understanding and right order. So what is the right order? Well, as Christ followers, do you, like me, find yourself wrestling, with this whole journey of life, purpose, and intentionality? Do some days seem less sure than others? With what pathways do you struggle? I think most of us desire the assurance of the right path while hazy is before us. For me, I continue to read, to study, to reflect. And then I realized that getting the right order, to the right order, was really the issue. I thought I was serving Christ. I thought I was immersed in Christ. That's a nod to my Church of Christ background, by the way. But was Christ really first? Was Christ really first? Because in the order that I had just given you, Christ was last. Oh, I thought not. So I concluded, and I conclude today, that a reordering is in fact essential. Christ must be first. I'm reminded of the old hymn. Some of you have been in class. Not very many. That's kind of boss. Not very many students in this class. And it's been bugged out, right? There's several of you in here. I like hymns. The word that comes to mind to put Christ first is all to Jesus I surrender. All to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him. In His presence daily live. That's first. This week, some of you who've ever read The Idea of the University, anybody in here read that book but me? By John Henry Newman? By the way, he's currently, as of the 13th, Saint John Henry Newman, who suffered a life often accused of deceit, dishonesty, for becoming first an Anglican and then a Roman Catholic. Traces in his book, Apologia, humbly and transparently the path of his soul. He practiced what he preached. Let us put ourselves into his or Christ's hands and not be startled when Christ leads us by a strange way. Let us be sure that he will lead us right. And then this last Sunday, or maybe it was 2 Sundays ago, I don't want to, I think I skipped church this past Sunday. Oh, you can say that. And we sang in our high church Anglican way, Charles Wesley's hymn, And Can It Be? And I haven't often sang that hymn, but when I heard it this past Sunday, I think it was in part a culmination of this challenge to curiosity as vanity. Thinking what Charles said when he came to Christ in a very personal way. Long my imprisoned spirit lay, fast bound in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused a quickening ray. I woke. The dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off. My heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee. There's several verses. And he closes and said, no condemnation now I dread. Bold I approach the eternal throne and claim the crown through Christ my own. You see, in short, with Christ as number one, as at the top of that list. That list was wrong. It had to be flipped over. Now, we can strive for humility. We often get that word confused, but what does that really mean? Humility doesn't mean I'm just a farm boy from Indiana. Though humility does mean grounded. It's an attitude rooted in a true sense of who we are, who you are, who I am, without pretense, accepting dependence on God and in the community of faith, and with one another. To be open to God's turning us in a new or unexpected direction. And for those of you who have Presbyterian and Reformed tendencies, what does the Westminster Catechism say? What is the chief end of man? Man's chief end, and I'm sorry here, the word man means all of us, okay, humankind, is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. That's why this has to be number one. This has to be number one. And then flourishing almost comes easily after that. And I think flourishing is best done in community. Dr. Tom over here, I said, what are you Dr. Tom 1? We have Dr. Tom 2 back there. Dr. Tom 1, when he was talking about mentors, did you mention the word mentors in your introduction? I mean, seeking others for counsel. What an incredible time, community that you're in at this moment, in this place, at this time, because you may never have it. I know we talk about the Spring Arbor bubble, but you know, I was thinking about it today. I've been out to the monastery in Three Rivers. Maybe none of you have been out there. Imagine living, you're not looking for a significant other than Jesus. You're living in community. You're not dating. You're praising God 7 times a day. Imagine that. That's a community. It's a community of choice. This one here is your community of choice. But you see, we are here to seek counsel and advice from others. I can't tell you how many people have counseled me and given advice to me, from freshmen, students. I have learned. From Dr. Tom Postman, I've learned. That whole back row, I'm trying to see if there's one person on that back row that I haven't learned something. Yeah, that's true. There is that one. Yeah. I'm going to tell you who that person is. See, I didn't even use it, so you don't feel like wow, what an opportunity. What an opportunity you have. And cherish that, because when you go out in the world, God's got a purpose for you, you see. But this may be the only time that you're going to be in a community like this one, where you can ask questions, you can be challenged, but more importantly, you will be loved. I want to go about 20 more paper files. Hugh Welchel, try to pronounce that name fast 3 times, talks about the role in business. He writes a lot about economics and business. He says, as followers of Jesus Christ, we are also called, see, in this idea of flourishing, to live our lives in a way that shows the world the way things could be. That's everything, the way things could be. As Christ followers, how do we think, given our knowledge and understanding of the New Testament, the church, how are things and how could they be? Another writer from King's College writes, we should be encouraging us, or Christians, to live lives in pursuit of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, education, wonder, beauty, glory, creativity, and worship in a world marred by sin. You know, we don't talk about sin too much. There is no sin, right? That's one thing I love about this post-modern, post-truth age. We don't have any sin anymore. We don't even have any objectivity anymore. I know you don't believe that, but that's what the world often tries to tell us. But we need to be men and women of virtue in every area of life. And it's when we have Jesus and then we recognize the flourishing that comes from Him that then we can be entrepreneurs in the sense that creatures who have been given creative gifts and energy so that we can strive to innovate, to improve, to serve. Now, the one thing I've heard, most of my life about business is we're greedy. I'll leave out the next word or two. Well, what I've learned about humanity? We're all greedy. All economic systems are greedy. All communities are greedy. Ever been in a church? We got greedy people. Well, may not be after money, but other things. So don't get caught up by that word. That's sin. Greed is sin. Okay, I agree with that. And Laura Beth Jones wrote 2001. I don't like the title of the book. Said Jesus, entrepreneur. Was the title of the book. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll have to ask Dr. Klein about that after. That's the kind of title we give to the book, Dr. Klein.
No.
But one of the things that she said, actually 7 things that I really liked. She said there are 7 gifts of business. Or what I like to call it, business. Dignity. See if some of these things sound Christ-like. Are we as business people, you see, creating jobs that give people a sense of dignity? In other words, are you thinking of your staff, of the people that you work with, of your what, as assets, not expense line items? Now, not everybody here's had accounting, but those of you who have will know the difference. Expense line items are kind of fun to cut out. Assets you want to nurture. Dignity. They don't get my pages or something. Acknowledgement. That's the second one. Acknowledgement. Create an atmosphere where gifts and talents of people are recognized, encouraged, and rewarded. And prosperity, not to gain wealth for yourself, but to create abundance for entire communities through trade and specialization. Integrity. Practices. Or practice the virtues plus live up to promises that are made. Well, we could do a whole series on just the cardinal virtues, couldn't we? Another 3 spiritual virtues. Service. Servanthood, a culture of serving others with respect both inside and outside the firm. Spring Arbor University is a firm. Okay. One of the things we see here, I think, is a lot of respect given to each other. Well, hopefully you're going to take this forward. Well, whatever you're going to do, my guess is most of you are going to want to earn a paycheck at some point in time, which means you're going to be working for a business or a firm or a nonprofit or somewhere that has to get revenue from some source, be it gifts, be it sales, whatever. And then community. Good business is good community. I chuckle oftentimes as somebody who's traveled internationally and done a number of international business deals in my career. We talk a lot about the global community. The last time I checked, community stretches about 3 to 5 miles. Now, when I'm in London or when I was in Frankfurt or when I was in France, wherever, that community was there. The community was there because we had common understandings of some basic things. I haven't traveled in Africa or Asia. But what I saw was that people have many of the same needs, same understandings. And by the way, when you talk about international commerce, it's been going on for a very long time. In fact, the Old Testament talks about that. And finally, number 7 is challenge. Response to market demands creates challenges for people to grow personally, intellectually, and professionally. So that brings us down now to the fourth thing, and not the third, this curiosity, the intellectual appetite, this truth-seeking to the glory of the Trinity. That's what curiosity should be, and not as a form to prove mine or your own superiority when compared to your friend, your neighbor, your coworker. And again, Griffiths talks about a way of virtuous curiosity, or a better word for it is studiousness, that is designed to see and to know more of Christ, that your surrender to Him will manifest in good works. Your surrender to Him will manifest in good works. Think about what Paul in his letter to the Philippians detailed about his success in curiosity. Paul was very learned, but acknowledges all that is counted for loss. It's rubbish. That's the nice word. I don't know much about Greek, but I did look up the Greek word for that. It begins with S and it has 3 letters to be translated into the English after that. We can't say it because it's not part of our community standards. But all of it is done. We can't say that. He gives all that he knew and all that he learned, counted as done in order that he might gain Christ. My pastor is a graduate of Spring Arbor University. Name's Adam Rick. Some of you probably know Adam. I don't know, right? A couple of Sundays ago, he reflected on the challenge to the successful church in Ephesus. If you remember in the book of Revelation, we read about the 7 churches, and Ephesus was considered, right, to be quite successful, but it fell away from its first love, which was what? Was Jesus. And Adam said, we too must strive to keep the exalted and merciful Christ in our front and center. We too must fan to flame that singular love for Him which will endure through all cultural pressure. We too must be a people dedicated to one thing above all others, to intimate fellowship with our bridegroom, the Lord Jesus Christ. That is the right order. Jesus first. Knowing Him comes then flourishing, then entrepreneurship, and then the rightful direction for curiosity. You know, it's our choice. I'm sure a lot of you in here, and I'm a Protestant too, but have you ever read Sirach? Anybody in here? Wait, where's he from? Sirach 15:15-17 says, you choose. You choose to keep the commandments and to act faithfully is a matter of your own choice. He has placed before you fire and water. Stretch out your hand for whichever you choose. For each person are life and death, and whichever one chooses will be given. Right order. So each morning is a new opportunity to learn, to apply, to live to the fullest. What will you and I choose each day? So I'm going to leave you with 4 contrasts to consider. Number 1, self or selfless. Number 2, serve or serve. Number 3, spendthrift or steward. And finally, consider this. Are you satire or are you sacred? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Knight. And I'm going to give you a minute to think of questions. We've got plenty of time for questions and comments. We want to hear what you think. And while you're thinking of that, could I just see, maybe show of hands, if you are a business major or in a major related to business? Okay, cool. And those that are not majoring in something related to business, raise your hand. Okay, so we've got a couple of groups of people here, students, and I would like to say for Dr. Knight, he is a perfect bridge connecting both areas. If you are a business major, I hope you've gotten a glimpse for how the study and application of liberal arts is for you. Study psychology and theology and whatever If you are not a business major, don't just think that, well, the liberal arts are yours and business folks don't care. Because here we have Dr. Knight. He's a man who certainly his faith and his love for the liberal arts infuse every aspect of his life, including how he views business and marketing and so forth. So I think I'm going to throw out a question for you, and I'm not going to throw you a softball question.
Can I ask Dr. Klein to answer the question?
Yes, you may. Dr. Klein is always on call. Okay, so... Okay, so you talked about putting God first.
I understand. You want to stand up?
Yeah, sure, whatever you like. And, you know, curiosity, and sometimes curiosity, it certainly does kill the cat. I was curious one day and I saw a book entitled Putting God Second. And I thought, I wonder if I read this book, if I'll be struck down or something. But I did read the book. It's by a Jewish rabbi, Daniel Hartman, a man of faith, not a atheist or anything. But his argument was that sometimes when worship and ethics come into, we need to love God, we need to love our neighbor, that when loving God and worship takes first place and ethics takes a backseat or second place, he thinks that sometimes ethics then will get shortchanged. And his argument, whether, and I'm not saying I agree with it, is just that we demonstrate our love for God through loving others. And that it's possible sometimes that our love for God, our focus on God, can result in kind of an ignoring of our obligation to others. I know that's not what you're arguing for, but how would you respond to that kind of critique from the outside world that would say, hey, Christians, they love to worship God, but they're not as ethical as some, or they seem to treat some folks not so well?
Well, my first, I guess this is on. My first answer would be that I still have 3 seats left in BUS 107, which is leadership and ethics for the spring term. So if you want to sign up for that. I think it's how you apply a system of ethics. But you have to, and I hope that my students conclude that the cardinal virtues and the spiritual virtues are the ultimate way to begin to address them. We discussed utilitarianism, we discussed goal-based, rule-based ethics, and all those things are important. What I think is taking this, and this is not situational ethics, but taking the given situation and learning what level or type of ethics to place that situation in to make the right decisions. But the cardinal virtues and the spiritual virtues trump all the others. And so you always have to go back to that. And that comes from our love of Christ. And at least that's how I've portrayed it in my own understanding and what I convey to students. I don't know if that's a very good answer.
No,
I think that hierarchy has got to stay in place. If you say no, because as Christ followers, that comes first, and I don't know if it's always a prescriptive answer. And that's where I think we have a challenge, right? Is because life is ambiguous, it's uncertain, and we have to learn how to wrestle with some of these things. And so there's not always a clear, clean, some of you out here might argue, black and white. Lots of things are. I think in my career, maybe over a long time, a couple of centuries, that I may have had 2 or 3 things that I really had to wrestle with. Most things were pretty clearly defined by having, I think the cardinal spiritual virtues under the hierarchy of Christ. And then, I'm not so sure. So how do I wrestle with that? But that's one of which was to fire an employee that was insubordinate. So that took quite a bit of prayer. A lot of people think, firing somebody is pretty easy. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do professionally. Even when I'm sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions?
Uh-oh.
Watch out. From the
Now,
back.
Dr. Hawthorne, I think you gave me a pretty good grade in my research course in my MBA program. I just want you to remember.
It was a year or 2 ago. So I'm curious about your how you link, yeah, I said, okay, first I love Jesus. Fourth, I'm curious. So I just thought it'd make that clear. So, your discussion about entrepreneurship and humility, how do you reconcile the notion that as an entrepreneur, it has come to you that you have a product, or you have a system, or you have a way forward that would be better, solve more problems, be more beneficial for others, and you're still doing that out of humility and keeping your curiosity in check, because there is a certain, you've got to have a drive to say,
Yes.
this is a thing that needs to be done, and I believe I have the skill set to do it. How does that fit into your kind of hierarchy?
I think it has to come back to the understanding that I'm a steward, that I'm an agent. I think that's how that helps me. I mean, and it took me a long time to come to that, frankly. I think until I studied agency theory. I mean, I realized I had been one, but I didn't know what it meant. And that's really helped me understand better how to work within that hierarchy. You know, God as creator, and I often say this to students, has given us creative gifts. They're all different. I don't think there's a person in this room or on this campus or in the world that doesn't have some gift. You know, and to discover that and to help them steward that gift, you know, further the kingdom is kind of always in the back of my mind. Does that help?
Yeah. A quick follow-up. I agree with all that in terms of the importance of agency and seeing the agency as related to stewardship and stewardship for care. But then how do you process the fact that people didn't like your really good idea?
I condemn them to hell.
Okay.
I'm God's agent. How dare you? You know, I guess for me, I mean, it's always, you know, there's a learning experience, and it's something else that I've come to realize about serving others. I mean, when I was your age out here, my dream was to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. So when I turned 30, I said, that's been too hard. I want to, you know, I'm going to work on my second million. First was too hard. But that idea was I wanted to be wealthy. When I realized I couldn't be a medical doctor, I decided I just needed to get wealthy some other way. And then I realized that was a misplaced, you know, set of goals. And I think gradually it's come to me that no, what I'm really here to do is to serve others, you know, through commerce and through, you know, making things more efficient and effective, and in that sense less costly to provide, you know, solutions to problems. And so that's part of it. So I don't think everything is going to work, and you have to learn, but you learn, right? That's the other thing. I try to suggest to folks that failure is actually a better tool to learn than success. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Great. Other questions or comments?
Uh-oh, now this is where I am.
But if you don't like it, you said Brett Klein could answer.
Yes, exactly.
I'll actually give you
Hey, look,
Another question.
Brad, I'll be right back. I'm getting a call. I know someone.
This is more of a comment than a question.
So, I mean, I don't pretend this is for the students' sake, for all of our sake. Talk about how this works when you're inside a system, not when you are operating independently of a system. So, for instance, I mean, take the issue of like stock prices. So, a company can be wonderful Christian stewards, and that might not be good for their stock price. What do you do when you're in a system where there's people above you that have certain demands that don't fit with the ethics that you're talking about? And I think that's a situation for a lot of us. Even if at just the level of buying stocks. Like if I buy a stock in a certain company, what am I demanding out of that company? Am I demanding the opposite of the things that you're talking about, because what I really want is that stock price to go up, and that's all I want. So when we're working like in a system, and you're welcome to like point out like a particular, because this is a very general question, particular, but like what do you do when you're in a system that doesn't allow or doesn't seem to encourage the very virtues that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, I've had my own personal experiences in corporate life. But I had one recently, not me, but a student that contacted me, graduated several years ago, and this student was quite concerned about what they felt was a problem, and they were in a small entrepreneurial business, but I mean, it was rapidly growing. And they said, well, I don't think I can stay here any longer. Can you help me find another job? And that's a case in point where a young student, you know, I believe she's probably 25 or 26, had a very successful career and said, I've got to change. I'm running up against things that don't meet my, and so she's making a very conscious decision to leave that situation and go to another. I don't know if that's exactly right, but there's a case point where the ethics, right, the preparation, I think was what she had here, the gain here, and, you know, she was able to make that tough decision. And I often tell students, you've got to know before you go into a situation, you're willing to quit because it goes against, you know, your moral framework and your ethical framework. And it's going to be hard to do when you have a family to feed. I had that situation, you know, 35 years ago or so. I was in a new job, and I discovered that my boss, who was the controller, and I was his assistant, was cooking the books in a $100 million business. And I'm also commuting with the guy to work. He went on vacation. Man, I thought long and hard, because I needed that job. You know, I'd lost my first business. I was an entrepreneur, lost my first business. I got 2 babies at home. And do I just go along with what's going on, or do I out it? Well, I took some tough time and some tough prayer. And I said, no, I've got to do what, you know, I'm not trying to say I'm the best kid on the block, but I went to the corporate leaders and I said, look, this is going on, and I don't know if you're trying to shuffle money from one place to another. What's going on here? But this is not right, whatever it is, and I'm willing to take, you know, the fall, but I'm going to say this is wrong. Well, you know, at the end of the day, I kept my job, and this guy I'm commuting with gets fired. I just remember the last trip on the way into work, got back from vacation. He was getting a promotion in the morning, he's going to be fired in the afternoon. He said, Al, he said, I wish you'd let me know about this first. I still had the idiocy to ride with a guy to work, but I just got fired for malfeasance. So, but those are the things that you have to be prepared. And I think that carries over in how you look at stocks too. For instance, if you're an outside investor, is that what you're talking about?
I mean, that's just an example. You can answer it.
But I think we all have a potential to be entrepreneurs inside a business, and I call that entrepreneurship. Not my term, somebody else's. And that's basically how I had success, you know, in my career. Was I realized I had risk aversion, and I didn't mind losing somebody else's money. Didn't want to lose my own, but no, I made 2 different businesses a lot of money because I was allowed to be entrepreneurial within this framework that had a lot more infrastructure than I was able to put together. So but you still have to wrestle with those same ethical, moral, what am I not going to do? And you got to decide that before you get into it. That's the key, folks. You got to have that system set, and that's hopefully what you're doing here. Does that help a little bit?
Thank you. Questions? You know, one thing I might throw out there, it's like a preview for you all, what you can look forward to in the spring semester. We're going to have a day or 2, a day of classes, but then some other events devoted specifically to a particular topic. It's called Focus Day. And this spring we're looking at the topic of liturgy or practice. And when we think about liturgy, sometimes if you think of it at all, it's like, okay, formal church prayer or this or that in a religious sense. But Dr. Knight, I'm sure you've thought about it, but how would you see liturgy, practice, that topic as crucial to our living out some of the principles that you laid out for us?
Well, again, for those of you in the room who've already been in one of my, or more of my classes, you know, I constantly talk about whole system thinking. I mean, I think that's who we are as people. We need to see that our life is not bifurcated. Is there such a word as trifurcated? There should be. Anyway, that we have these separate little rooms to do things in. I think that's wrong. You know, we don't have, shouldn't have a secular side, but that's a whole different discussion. I'm reading Charles Taylor's book, or attempting to read it. But, you know, and then our religious side, I mean, it should be a whole thing. I mean, I think that and we do liturgy quite a bit where I go to church, but that liturgy is just an outpouring of what I should be doing during the week. Meaning the work that I'm doing, it's all a continuous whole for me. Now, it's not perfect yet. I mean, it's something I've been working on for years. So I think one of the challenges that each one of you are going to have is this doesn't come in a moment, in a flash. It's something that's developed, I think, over a lifetime, and that's why I like our phrase here, you know, lifelong learners. We're also lifelong practitioners, and we're lifelong honing the things that God is calling us to be. I don't know if that helps answer.
Yes, very much. Well, thank you, Dr. Knight. Let's give him a hand.